Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fine. It's weird because I was last night unexpectedly we couldn't record, and I was so ready to be like, "Oh man, this is our last Tuesday podcast."
Yeah, I know. Me too. It's been fun switching up nights and talking The Last of Us. I mean, I know we'll get into it more deeply here shortly, but it's going to be weird. I know you were joking with me last week that I was going to have the Kermit meme looking out the rainy window next Sunday night, and I probably will.
Yeah. It's always like that. Like when you start one of these shows and you get into the rhythm, and then before you know it, it's over. And then you just think, wow, why I just want more.
I do. Yeah.
Especially like there's often breaks. I mean, we're not getting Succession, which will be my replacement for another week or so, but And sometimes it feels like we're given so much at once. We're like, man, why couldn't this show have started like a few weeks later? I mean, it would have been nice to be able to focus on one thing at a time, but we enjoy what we get. On that note, we will be starting next week to move back to a Thursday schedule. Given all of the random stuff we're going to start to dip our toes in and scatter around because there is a lot more stuff to talk about. But we will try to just see what is topical that week, what really caught our attention. Even though y'all know I love to hate watch things. Yeah, but Will, I did not, I watched The Glory this weekend.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about you. I saw the Glory Netflix trending over the weekend.
Yeah, I think it was number 3 because they also decided to drop You, which You got put on the back burner. I was so paranoid about spoilers. Because I had noticed like an influx in Glory, people talking about Glory on my timeline. So I was just like, from the moment it dropped, like in the morning eating breakfast, watching like in spare. And so I finished it in record time for what my around things that I end up doing on the weekend. So I was very proud. I have some qualms about the ending. But at the end of the day, I do think they tied up all of the loose ends really well. Last fall in December they dropped 8 episodes, and then they dropped the second half, another 8 episodes. And I can't tell you how many times I was watching, like I'm on episode 9, 10, 11, I'm just like, fuck, this is a good show. The writing just they managed to do this thing where usually shows telegraph when they're jumping timelines or when things are playing out in a different order, because they want you to like think about an interaction through one lens and be like, got you, actually it's this. And for some reason there were 5 or 6 of those moments, and it got me every single time. That's
the best though. I mean,
I don't know what's going on. That's so genius. I don't know. I really like that show. Yeah. I'm sad that it's over. I hope it doesn't get a season 2 because it doesn't need one, but they did leave it where they could. I do. Yeah. It's hard because, and we're going to talk about final episodes when we get to Last of Us, but I think my least favorite episode is actually the last one because it serves so much as an epilogue. And it was so weird to be watching the penultimate episode, not realizing that it's the penultimate, and then everything, like, you're suddenly like, whoa, wait, oh, okay, well, now that all of that's taken care of, we got another hour and a half. And it's just, I don't know, it felt a little drawn out, and and some of the things felt a little forced and a little, it was weird. I feel like I almost feel like they brought in a different writer for that very last episode, but then again, we can't all be perfect shows. So
no, it's whenever you do get as close to perfection as you can, though, it is very rewarding, and it sounds like overall it sounds like a pretty rewarding season for you.
I think, and I never thought this would happen. Granted, I've only watched a handful of K-dramas, but I think that this is probably going to be my favorite K-drama and supersede Vincenzo, which Vincenzo was for a while. I love Vincenzo, but I did fast forward through a lot more of Vincenzo than I did The Glory.
Well, if you didn't fast forward through The Glory, then that's high praise coming for your
only the first episode, and it's just because trigger fucking warning.
Like,
it's intense. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch that. Let me get to the present day stuff. Jesus. But while I was doing that and doing my homework for tonight's show, Will was off watching the Oscars for some Lord reason. Well, I know your movie won, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, my movie did win. I did watch the Oscars. I from start to finish, I got sucked in, and Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture. Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress. Ki Hu Kwan won Best Supporting Actor, and Jamie Lee Curtis, which was very controversial. And I actually, having watched that movie, and and also given the fact that her co-star was also nominated in Supporting Actress, Stephanie Hsu, and also obviously Angela Bassett for Wakanda Forever. Really, either Stephanie, in my opinion, or Angela should have won it. Not taking anything away from Jamie Lee Curtis, because she did a good job, and yes, she was the, I guess, star power. Not that, that Michelle Yeoh's not, but as far as bankable names, I think people will probably recognize Jamie Lee more so. Maybe now more equal to Michelle, but just watching the film, Stephanie was definitely a stronger supporting character, and honestly, Angela Bassett probably still should have won, even over the two of them, because she clearly was the anchor, the emotional, as we've talked about on our Black Panther Wakanda Forever reviews and other times. She really was. She lifted that movie up.
And it shouldn't have to do with star power or the character's involvement in the movie, but what that performance does. And I said to give Angela the Oscar when I saw the trailer, because like most trailers, they always include some of the best scenes in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
But so it's just classic Oscars though. They always want to have give one award to an actor who has that comeback, like when Matthew McConaughey won and everyone was talking about the McConaissance, and now it's Brendan Fraser time. And then also that kind of big, oh my gosh, all signs were pointing to this person to win, aka Angela Bassett. And then all of a sudden, no, we're going to give a legacy, because let's be honest, Jamie Lee Curtis, it has everything to do with the fact that she's been in the business for decades, hasn't won one. And they just felt like it was time, because the girl doesn't get that many options because she got a weird role selection history.
Well, she's a scream queen. And that was one of the endearing things I did like about her speech, is that she did thank genre fans for the ride, and that was I mean, as far as Oscar speeches, hers, Key, and even the Daniels with their, with the co-directors winning Best Director. I mean, those were some just really. I was just like, I just adore these guys. I really, so.
And then everybody got confused by Brendan Fraser's, right? I wasn't the only one because I watched that. And I'm like, I don't know what is going on. I think he was like overstimulus or something.
He was totally overstimulated. Because that was the one where, I really thought, even though I didn't see Elvis, but everything everybody was talking about, it seemed that Austin Butler was probably going to win that, or Paul Mescal. And it really, whenever Brendan, I mean, it was one of those things, because it's very rare that Best Actor will win if the film is not also in the Best Motion Picture category as well.
It's interesting though that you say that, because I this whole time I have been just thinking, like, Pascal wasn't even on my radar. It was always either Austin or Brendan. And even though Austin got the Golden Globe, I believe, and then when Brendan won the SAG, I was like, okay, he's going to get the Oscar.
Yeah.
I just, that was my instinct. Because again, Oscars traditionally love these narratives. And I feel like, even though Austin Butler is now a rising star, I think the narrative of Brendan Fraser having his like tumultuous career, like that's the narrative that the Oscars really love. So
yeah, and you're right about and it's and that was the same with Jamie Lee with the winning the SAG as well, because those are voted on by their peers, and in the Oscars, it's the same thing. It's, it's with the Academy, it's the, category people who actually vote for people within that particular category of the award. So yeah, all signs trended that way, but it's just, next time we watch Doom Patrol, we'll be watching Oscar winner Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, only for them to end the show.
Yeah, exactly. Tommy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. So do you really want to talk about this other news stuff? I'm just looking at the
James Gunn was confirmed. We don't really need to dive in anything deeper than that. I mean, I think everybody knows about him writing the story and the script for Superman Legacy, and he's going to direct it. Okay. That's why even in the show notes, I was like, admittedly, not new news.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Do I say
that? Yeah. But the last one I did just want to share, because I know there's a Marvel Universe of Superheroes traveling exhibit that right now it's in Portland, Oregon, but it's going to be in my backyard in Charlotte, North Carolina, starting in May, and we'll be going through September 4, and it's the last stop on the U.S. Leg of the exhibit, which is an exhibit that shares the whole story about Marvel and comics, films, and of course other media as well. It's like it really covers the whole, I guess, 80-year history of Marvel Comics, and really sounds like a pretty dope exhibit that I'll probably go down to Charlotte to check out. It's at Discovery Place Museum for our listeners here on the East Coast of the United States. If you want to travel down from Virginia or come up from South Carolina and other places, or just even within here in NC, it will be at the Discovery Place Museum in Charlotte. And for the folks on the West Coast, you can still check it out in Oregon until April 9th.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm very jealous that you get things like that.
Well, here's your chance for a road trip.
That's not a road trip. That's like 2 flights.
Yeah.
Full day of travel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll do a
definitely.
live podcast for museum. How's that?
Will can dream. Oh man. The other thing that I watched over the weekend, and I've been staying on top of is Picard. I watched the 4th episode. Last week I'd already watched the 3rd episode, even though we didn't talk about it. Yeah, so it was fine. I I can watch Picard, but what's really telling is when I listen to other people talk about Picard and they read so much more, like whether it's you or Roka um, on Geek Buddies, like talk about the show, and like there's so many more levels because a lot of this season is very nostalgic and relevant to fans who have been watching Next Generation and all of that. So it was a fine episode. I wasn't entirely blown away because the stakes didn't work for me. Because I mean they're in space, so and there's multiple episodes left of the season.
Yeah. Well, there is that. Yeah. I went into that episode. No, I was like, they're going to get out. So let's just see how they. That episode was titled "No Win Scenario." So
yeah.
And I was So I was wondering how they were going to take something that has been literally beaten to death in Star Trek as far as this whole concept of the no win scenarios, the Kobayashi Maru simulator that which is a test of character, which as I was thinking about this episode tonight that we're discussing tonight and what we'll be talking about later in The Last of Us, there were there was this through line as far as decisions and people's character that I think these didn't I don't think we planned on it this way, but I think they kind of complement each other with that sort of similar through line.
Right. No, I picked up on the same thing.
Yeah.
Like the sacrifice parents, specifically that parental instinct to no matter what, at the cost of how many lives, I'm going to put my kid first above it. And what does that mean? Because that's exactly what Picard did in the 3rd episode. And now, having done it, we watch the fallout of that consequence, and then that is also wrapped up in remaining guilt over his period when he was a Borg. We saw that with his interaction with Shaw. And so, see, guys, I'm definitely watching.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I'm also just like, damn it, Will. But it's good. It gets me out of some of the other TV bubbles of shows that I do watch, and I still don't know why I watch them. But that's a story for another day. But no, it is really funny how both of these shows are genre shows and pick up on that theme and explore it in a different way because with Picard and after listening to people talk about the show, like I never really picked up on how lonely he is or his innate choice to kind of isolate himself, and he does that by putting his job first, putting his role first, even in terms of his relationships with other crew members, which is interesting. So now that he has a kid, and he's it is weird then, like, suddenly now there's a reason I have to put something else first above the job and above protecting these lives because this is my biological kid, even though I've just met him 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to go into The Last of Us, it's so similar, but I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate the big difference. Because, and probably the big difference is Joel at the end of the day isn't walking away from a crew or a ship. His is more like, fuck this world.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything before.
Yeah.
But now I do have something to lose, and what I have to lose is Ellie.
Yeah. And I think, getting back to Star Trek and real quickly and talk about that loss, because whenever we end episode 3, of course, Riker and Picard have their big blow up as far as different strategies. And then when episode 4 starts, we see the fallout from that. And we learn why Riker, speaking of people being detached and lost. And I think Riker and Joel are kind of the two characters you can really play off of one another in some sense, because both of them lost children. Riker lost his son, Thaddeus, and then, because of that, he talks about, one, like, there's a lot of religious overtones, and like, is there, I've been to the furthest reaches of space and there's still nothing there that has convinced me that there's an afterlife. And then when he talks to Jean-Luc, he's like, look, you've got a chance here to make amends with your son here. And, just talking, and, so take advantage of it while you have this moment. So, but also it, we see why Riker, Jean-Luc did touch on something, and Jean-Luc recognizes that he was out of line for like bringing up Will's son's loss, and Will being extra cautious as far as making a decision to protect the ship and do the safe course and get out of the nebula while they've had a chance. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this is, these are two long-time friends, and it was very realistic that, yes, friends sometimes, they know where to hurt you, but at the same time, they also know where to, know what buttons to push to like try to make things right. And Will saw that, and was telling Jean-Luc, look, just take it from me. You got this chance. Whatever time we have left, this is the end, my friend. Go make things right with Jack. Yeah.
I will be honest, like, Will has turned into like Ralphie for me, where I tend to fall asleep during his scenes. So
see, as a long-time fan, so I have the opposite. As a long-time friend, this is like some of the best work Jonathan Frakes has been putting in as that character. And he's also, it really, when he's directing these last 2 episodes as well. And, so I do the hat tip to him, because it really has been some of the best Riker we've seen probably since like Best of Both Worlds, which was one of the seminal shows in the Next Generation run.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
Which that's the Borg one. That's when Picard was turned into Locutus.
Right.
Yeah.
So in your metaphor, if Will is Joel, then is Picard Marlene?
I don't know if he's Marlene or not.
Or is Shaw Marlene?
I think Shaw may be
maybe closer to it.
Closer to it.
Because he's more about protecting the lives, like.
Yeah. I think it's Shaw.
Yeah. Okay. And in a way, both Will and Picard make up, I think, Joel in his situation, between the two of them and everything, because Joel kind of is both, like, where you're right, both Will and Joel lost a kid, have that experience, but at the same time, both Picard and Joel find themselves like with another kid to protect. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up right away. It's definitely something I wanted to bring up. And no, we don't time this, but I liked how it worked out.
Yeah.
And it was just surprising because even though I knew how The Last of Us was going to end, it took me actually watching The Last of Us to suddenly think about it and listening to people talk about it and be like, wait a second, these themes are playing out on another show. Go figure. So it's happy coincidence. But
Very.
on that note, Will,
Yeah.
I love to start you off with a question, and I guess
Okay.
so I know you want to talk about Marlene, but before we get to Marlene, I told you, I don't know if you remember this, but I told you in episode 1, always think about while we're watching this season, is Joel a good guy?
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that very well.
Yeah, what is your response now, having seen the whole season?
It's complicated.
Oh boy, is it?
Oh, it's complicated. I mean, because you can make arguments for both ways, and I know a lot of this, and obviously I didn't play the game, but from my understanding of seeing how the debate has unfolded this week, everywhere, social media, YouTube videos, water cooler talk, this was Joel's decision in this episode that was debated just as vigorously 10 years ago as it is now.
Yeah.
As far as did he make the right, did he make the right decision, and what would you do if you were in those shoes? And I know, like I mentioned to you Sunday night, whenever we were going back and forth about the episode, and I just at that, as a parent, I completely I will, as a dad, I would have totally been Joel in that situation.
Right.
As the rational side of me is like, yes, this kid has the cure. It can save the planet, literally.
But
that's my kid, So from that point, I completely get it. And I don't know if it's a good guy, bad guy binary thing more, or it's just, it's just the things we do for love.
Right.
I know it's that's something that has been Neil Druckmann and Craig have been on their companion podcast have talked about all season, and
right.
And that this episode really just drives that point home, and
in a very surprising way.
Yeah,
because like it's very, it played out very close to the game, like just remarkably close, to the point where the same abruptness that everything happened in, and the same kind of clunkiness, in my opinion, that occurred in the game played out in this episode as well. Because just the way you need to hit it, but it hits the overall moral ambiguity that occurs, and the conversations and the morality discussion still occurs in both mediums, because everything they do leading up to it, like, it's just so perfectly planned and wrapped up, that it's just bravo to that. But to go back to Joel and is he a good guy, I think why I like this story so much is because I feel like there's like this commentary occurring throughout it, like subconsciously about heroes and about storytelling. Because as a viewer, like, we're not related to Ellie, but as a viewer, we've gotten to know Ellie just as, like, through Joel, and therefore we're like, damn straight, you're gonna go get her. No. Like, she is the second lead of the show. Like we don't care if like Jane Doe is getting prepped for surgery. We're like, okay, good, you found another one. Great. Because we are going through the story as Joel, as Ellie, and so, like, those are the people we want to protect in this story above all else. And then on top of that, in a genre show like this, the typical story is, let's save the world. Like, a typical storyteller would tell the story through the eyes of the Fireflies, not through Joel, who, like, has found a way through everything to just manage to survive in this godforsaken world, and had nothing to lose, and then he found something to lose, or he was, like, pushed to, like, take on this responsibility. And along the way, it just changed. It's like, okay, so good things can still occur in this world. And fuck you all for trying to take that away from me. Like, screw you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm glad when you asked me the question, is he a good guy? And I think at his core, yeah, I think he is. But sometimes good, but sometimes, and to your point about storytelling and stuff, it's sort of like some of the things we talked about when we were discussing Andor and Star Wars. I know we're pulling everything in tonight, but that, you know, sometimes, you know, and we get so wrapped up in the romanticism of good guys, and they do no wrong, and it's like The Boys too. It's just like, you know, the good guys sometimes have to get their hands dirty. You know, it's not always going to be very clean, sanitized, you know, decisions, and you know, people may get hurt because of some of the decisions that they've made. But, you know, is Joel a good guy? Yeah. Did he make a bad decision? Yes. And the truth, and both can be, two things can exist in the same place and be right.
Right.
And at a place where Joel, I think, has the flaw, and again, it's coming out of a place of love, but it's still, it was wrong, was telling Ellie that lie after she wakes up, comes through, and they're standing there on the hill as they're about to go down to Jackson.
Right.
But, you know, and I mean, I don't have to have no, you know, I don't need to know anything in the future to know that's just it's not going to end well, because whenever you lie to family members, even if you're doing it in a place of love, in a place of, like, trying to protect them, or whatever the motivation is, it never ends well if you take a person's agency away like that. Right.
Yeah. Like, and I was gonna go there next, is that it wasn't just one decision. It was two. It was the decision that I'm going to go get her, and then the decision I have to now lie. Which I think at the end of the day, classifying good and bad, it's too narrow of a box. What we're seeing is selfishness, and how love can make people very selfish.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the decision to get Ellie and save her, it's entirely it's not being selfless. It's being
No.
it's just not. But it was interesting when we see the final showdown between Marlene and Joel, because Marlene has 9,000 lives. And she says to him, like, she brings up this whole "you're taking away agency," and all I can think about is like, so you didn't tell her? Like,
Yeah.
I'm still a bit confused. And I guess one of my gripes about this episode, I love Bella Ramsey. She's great. There was something, and I know a lot happened with David. I understand PTSD, but for some reason, the way she was playing it from a perspective of a viewer who knows where this is going, I felt like she was expressing more guilt than she was, I am just not here right now. I don't know what's going on. Like, there was something about the acting choices Bella made in the first 20 minutes of this episode where, and I don't know if it's like her choices, but what I'm saying is that there was something that was coming across where I was getting the sense from her that Ellie was thinking, oh shit, I now have a dad, and he's attached to me. He's already lost a kid, and he's about to lose another, because I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't think I'm going to leave here with Joel.
Yeah.
That was my interpretation.
I think that's a fair one because, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a fair one because I had the same feeling, like it was just something off. Yeah, like you said, PTSD from the event, but it was almost like, yeah, I mean, it was like an awkwardness between them.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know if it, maybe, and you're right, maybe it was the direction that they were given, and even when they were starting to tell, the puns and the puns book and stuff, it just seemed forced and not natural. So,
right.
and maybe that was the point, to convey that feelings that you just talked about.
Yeah, but then, and that was my instinct. I was like, okay, so, because we still don't know exactly what Marlene told Ellie, like way back in the first episode. We know the gist of it, but we don't know to what extent she told her. And so I was surprised in that final showdown when Marlene mentioned, it's not your, like, they had that whole back and forth. It's not your choice. Well, it's not yours either. So that is implying I didn't tell her either.
Yeah.
She was going to die. We just knocked her out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you wanted to talk about Marlene's role in this as well, because there's been such an emphasis already on Joel and his decisions. But what were some of your thoughts about Marlene?
Yeah, I think you just hit it. I mean, that was really where I was going to go, was that Marlene's is not coming into this with clean hands either. And she clearly, I mean, it's very apparent to me in that scene that they just basically took it, when they knocked him out in the street, and whenever Ellie came to, they were just like, we're going to prep you for surgery, and they did not tell her anything about what was going to really happen here.
Right.
And especially, when you think about, like, Ellie, when you think about the giraffe scene, and when they were and Ellie and Joel had that one of their, that discussion about, do we, Joel's like, let's just turn around and go back to Jackson, and Ellie wanted, basically like, no, we've come too far to, like, turn back now. Marlene basically making a decision for Ellie, again, good that many needs of the way to needs of the few, and doing that really like put me off on the Fireflies, because I'm like, yes, y'all have this cure, but y'all are like basically murdering this kid. And,
yeah.
So it's saving, so killing one to save 1,000 or whatever. I mean, it's just as wrong as what Joel did, but it's also understandable trying to save the human race. I mean, so I mean, that's what's so ingenious about this show, and even the game itself, is like putting you in these moral conundrums and situations to, like, what would you do?
Right.
And
right. Well,
yeah.
It's funny because I also kind of alluded to stuff and wanted to bring this up when we both had watched the finale, and I wanted to go back to Kansas City, and with Kathleen, right? Her name was Kathleen, right?
Yep,
okay,
yeah,
because she was, I mean, before David.
Yeah.
David took the cake on the big bad, but before David, she was like that, like, oh my God, I don't like you. The moment you say, well, all children, like, don't you think Sam was supposed to die?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're gonna die now. But she, like Joel, was acting very selfishly. Like, yes, she wanted to overthrow Fedra and be a part of that. But what really did it was the moment they killed her brother. And then getting revenge for her brother's death superseded everything, to the point that it led to their all demise, because they completely left themselves vulnerable to the infected. And when I'm watching that episode and I'm hearing the discussions about her character, I'm just sitting and like, oh my God, these guys are brilliant writers.
They are. Yeah.
Because it's freaky how similar, how that theme, even though we're hit over the head with it again for 8 episodes, every way they tell it feels fresh. Different, and doesn't feel forced. And then by the point we get to the turning point with our main character, you're just like, damn.
Yep.
I should have seen it coming more, but I didn't. and really, there's not a whole lot to see coming, because we know, like, at the end of the day, this season will end. Like, it's about a journey, and you're going to get to the Fireflies, but I guess in a weird way, in our minds as viewers, you're just like, oh, they're just going to take some blood.
Yeah, exactly. Because you think back to Sam and that episode, because it's like, okay. And even at the beginning of this episode when Ellie's mom, Anna, I was wanting to say Ashley, because I was like, Ashley Johnson plays her, but with the transmission, whenever she was when she had Ellie, and cutting the cord and figuring out, like, oh, okay, if it's transmitted by, she cut the umbilical cord in time, and so it's just like, yeah, it's just out blood. But then when Marlene's like, well, we have this doctor, and cordyceps infects the brain, and just like, you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. Yeah, no, that opening, it hit me more hearing Neil talk about it, and hearing Ashley and Troy talk about it than it did when I watched it. And here's why. Because I don't know if you remember this show, Will, but we watched 10 episodes of House of Dragon. A lot of bursts.
There were a lot of very traumatic bursts.
Very traumatic bursts. So in comparison, it's just like, that was weird. That was a bit like very clean in a way.
Yeah, it did.
Traumatic, but not so traumatic.
Well, yeah, because it was just like, okay, and maybe, and like I said, at this point in the season, given some of the tragic losses we've had along this journey, you know, that one, the birth this week, and and we also talked about Riley and Ellie's story.
Right.
Some of the emotional, they've wrung it all out of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe on season 2 they could spread it out a little bit, because I mean it was visceral in a different way.
Right.
I mean, I felt it. It was one of those things like more. It was more like, oh God, I was wondering like how is Ellie? How did Ellie get found in this? In this farmhouse. More so, so that was where my head was going when this was all sort of going down.
Yeah. I love seeing Ashley Johnson play this part particularly. And for listeners who I hope everybody has been keeping up on the podcast, but if you haven't, on the after show podcast for this show, I highly recommend listening to their season finale discussion, because I have been saying all season how uncanny Bella and Ashley are. With knowing Bella has not watched the cutscenes, played the game, it is weird. And if you told me in another life Ashley Johnson birthed Bella Ramsey,
I did think that too while I was watching it, because I haven't played the game, but I have watched the cutscenes, and I was like, oh,
yeah. And they touch on that, and I mean, like it's nothing against Troy and Pedro, but there is just something on this weird level that is just out of this world, where these two people and this character, it's just this one thing. And thank God for Bella, because I mean, it's just I can't even articulate, but I was so happy to hear them touch on that and get emotional about that. Because I just think it speaks volume to both the actresses and the character, and just this overall narrative, that I just, it's the best video game adaptation, again, because they took the story. There was a real story here that they could flesh out in some places and then stick to what captured the players to begin with. And you just, I don't know.
It really, I completely agree. I'll drop a link to that on our, if folks haven't had opportunity to, you can search it, but I really, hearing that as well, really drove that point home to me. And the other thing too that Druckmann has confirmed is that Bella will be coming back as Ellie in season 2. So no House of the Dragon cast change or anything else, because by the time with the time jump in the story, Ellie will be closer to Bella's actual age anyway. So they're just like, let's just stick with it.
How old is Bella?
I want to say she's 19.
Okay, because she does look like okay. Okay. Yeah, I was a bit worried about that, but then when I'm hearing there might be a third season, that led me to drum up some theories about how that could work, which there is a way.
I think what they're going to do with the third, my understanding was from Neil was that with the third, they're going to sort of stretch out the part 2 of the game over maybe 2 seasons.
You can definitely do that with part 2. I can totally see them stretching out part 2. Yeah, I can definitely see it. I know exactly how it would end. The second season would end, and yeah, and why. Oh, so interesting. I'm not going to spoil anything. When are they starting to shoot season 2?
Oh gosh, I haven't seen anything concrete yet.
Man, well, you're
I guess
so
they're. Yeah, I mean, I know it's been renewed. I want to say they were trying to aim for a 2024 release of season 2. So
okay.
so they'll have to. I think they are. I think they are in pre-production and stuff now.
So are you gonna last that long?
Oh God. I was joking. I was joking with our artist Lindsay today. Had emailed her because she played the game and stuff, and whenever the first episode, she was not a big fan, and I was checking in after the season was over, and they're still not a fan. I guess one of the game, I know some of the gaming community just never did warm up to the show, and she was one of them.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I joked with her that I think I might have to go out and get a PlayStation.
Oh, you can totally watch it.
Yeah, I know.
Totally watch it.
I know. I probably will.
You want to? I don't think you want to.
No, I don't want to. I like I said, whenever I did watch when I think someone put together a 10-hour YouTube video on it, and I got deep enough that I was like, okay, I need to stop, and so right. I haven't gone back to it since I started it. So I think I'm a hold firm. I kind of know I did get spoiled about one major element, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it still hasn't taken away my looking forward to season 2. Okay,
you're going to tell me offline what that spoiler is, so that I can know what I can give away, and then I can be really upset that you already found that out. I watched
it kind of funny. I should have stayed away from it, but I was watching on with Neil. I was watching on with Neil because I was like, I figured it was a safe view, but then they said something in it, and I was like, shit.
Oh my God, Will, it's definitely not safe. It's actually more unsafe.
Yeah, I should have listened. I was like, it's Neil. I'll just check it out. And they were talking about season 2. And I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, but I don't want to say anything more. I may this may all up on the cutting room floor.
Now I'm trying to remember, like, I'm trying to think. There's like 2 that I can be really upset about, but I'm glad it's not both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have more seasons of this show to look forward to. And speaking about the gaming community and that portion that hasn't warmed up to it, even though I love this show, I can totally understand why shows like this, which is an adaptation of something so beloved in its original form, I can totally understand why people would have problems with it. Just given, like, I used to only read books that were being adapted in the movies. I never liked the movies over the books.
Yeah.
So it's just very hard.
Yeah.
Because of your experience through that medium with that story, and then to transfer it, and also whether it being a book or a game,
mm-hmm.
those mediums serve you going through the story as that character almost more than a movie or a TV show does.
Yeah.
So it's hard to take away that, like, or hard to really transcend that. So I can understand it. Just also keep in mind, it's a really good show.
It really is a good show. One last thing. Before we wrap up, I just want to get your thoughts on this, because we touched around it, but we didn't hit it. Do you think Ellie would have, if she knew everything that would have?
I can't answer this question, Will. I can't. I know season 2.
Okay.
I can't answer the question.
Okay.
Wink. So, to answer the question based solely on this season and her actions and dialogue in this season, I will just say, think about the conversation about half measures.
Understood.
Okay, that conversation is very telling in terms of who Ellie is as a person and who Joel is as a person. Now, all that being said, she's still a 14-year-old kid who, hypothetically gets told, oh, for me to save everyone else, I just need to kill myself. Okay, I will totally do that. I don't think it would be a 5-minute conversation.
We'll put a pin in it till we come to season 2.
Yeah, I think that she's so much of a survivor at the same time. And that she finally has that, like in a way, I mean, Joel really in a way is her kindred spirit, where both of them found what they have been searching for in this broken world for so long. And so she might be like, I can't do that because that would leave Joel alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're definitely going to that question. We got some years to come where we will definitely be talking about that question and more, as we patiently wait for the next season of this show and probably rewatch this first season maybe a few times. But on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.